Okay, so this is kind of an impromptu video I'm making shortly before I go to sleep before tonight's night shift. And hang on. So I don't know what to title this video. I might title it something like Keeping Desires in Their Place. So I'm like 32 and a half now, and I haven't attempted to date anyone for the past 10 years. I haven't used dating apps for any more than maybe like 72 hours in total. Um, and regardless of how attractive I might find anyone, and I typically don't attempt to form a relationship with them. You know, I might make them laugh or smile, but I never really try to have a full blown relationship. And it's because I understand that I have certain goals and missions. And as I told my father in a conversation today, women are passengers, but they are not the journey itself. So take two men, okay? One of them does his best to avoid sinning to the greatest extent possible, but he also has no real capacity for pro social virtues. He reads his Bible every day. He prays regularly. He posts a bunch of religious content on social media. And yet, when he, has a chance to discuss, say, the local homeless in conversation with friends, he finds himself expressing contempt for them. And he doesn't even think for half a second before he does that. Another gentleman sins privately when he's alone. If you catch my drift. But although he doesn't pray as often or exhibit his religious values in public as often, he very frequently helps the local poor, and he recruits others, you could call them spiritual brethren, into helping the local poor too, even though he and everyone else in that group acknowledges that they're all imperfect sinners and that they'll never be able to probably permanently stop sinning, given the fact that we have imperfect natures. And the best we can do is aim at excellence rather than perfection. Who between those two kinds of people would you rather be? You know? Unfortunately, in the real world, you have to make trade-offs that place you in one camp or another. And I'd rather be somebody with certain kinds of flaws that I keep working on, who stays pro-social, than someone who becomes a kind of gloating, narcissistic, self-aggrandizing demon in practice, who never really helps other people in proportion to what he can do without engaging in anything like self-immolation. So self-improvement that doesn't turn the mind and body into vehicles for virtue inevitably turns into self-worship and maybe at some point some kind of clinically significant narcissism. There's someone we all know who is clearly narcissistic, who has clarified in numerous ways that he doesn't really think about the suffering of the people his decisions impact, and we don't want to end up like him. And in contrast to him, you have people like, say, maybe the non-canonized Saint Dobry Dobrev, the Saint of Bylovo. He lived as a poor guy, and he begged for donations, living on an incredibly small stipend himself, and donating his money to churches and I think orphanages. So if you want to partake in self-improvement as a man, then make sure you focus on what your end goal is, right? If you want to help, say, X amount of poor people before you're 40 or something, then in practice what you might have to do is, for lack of a less romantic seeming expression, you might have to make the poor your wife or girlfriend. and then get back to dating actual women when you're finished with your goal, if you crave a chance at moral sainthood or something, which I kind of do. Um, I'm not purporting that that's my goal. I'm just saying that this is something I'm kind of interested in, because I think it would lead to a kind of radiant self-respect or something. I don't know. I'm just curious about that. I finished making my points, and I'm sorry if this was super disorganized. I am tired after a really high carb meal.